So, Jeet, over to you. We are live now. Thank you.
Pranam Guruji. Namaste to all. Guruji says existence is eternally present. But does present exist eternally? That may be known by realizing eternal existence. With that profound quote, Darpan Foundation welcomes you to this Upanishad with Guruji Shri Nandkishore Tiwari, propounder Sahaj Smriti Yoga, and our host, Sri Thomas Easley, artist and painter. Guruji established a Universal Forum for Human Dignity in the year 2002 and founded Darpan Sahaj Smriti Yoga Ashram at Urigam in 2018. Guruji Shri Nandkishore Tiwari propounded Sahaj Smriti Yoga system of self-realization along with Sahaj Smriti Kriya, an absolute effortless method to explore unexplored dimensions of one's existence. This is a path easy to follow along with the busy family life. Under Guruji's guidance, Darpan Foundation is consistently working in areas of sustainable living, education, conservation of nature, health, sanitation, and enabling senior citizens to meaningfully contribute to the society. Through various social transformation projects, we have touched more than 5,300 students, 26 schools, and 42 villages. As India continues its battle with COVID, Darpan Foundation has expeditiously stepped in to combat the unprecedented public health crisis. Through our COVID management initiatives, we are equipping the primary health centers and triage centers with oxygen concentrators, personal protective equipment, and other essential medical supplies to ensure the safety, health, and well-being of very lifeline of the health centers, our frontline medical staff. We provided home-cooked nutritious meals during the lockdown. We are also regularly conducting meditation cum relaxation sessions for the frontline medical staff at health centers. Our host, Sri Thomas Easley, is an artist, writer, musician, teacher, and a seeker. As much as Sri Easley is an artist of color, texture, and movement, he is also an artist of mind. Easley's paintings are a reflection of his lifelong effort to live in the moment and share how he sees the world, dynamic, multidimensional, and full of contrasts. Sri Easley's paintings have been widely exhibited in the US, Europe, and Asia, both in art galleries and public spaces. Sri Easley is also known as theoretical philosopher, one who has no assumed knowledge, only a perception of possibilities that become more or less clear when more such possibilities are observed, and the observer becomes aware of himself in relation to them. Welcome, Sri Thomas Easley ji. The word Upanishad is made up of two words, Upa and Nishad, meaning sitting beside. Traditionally, seekers looking for knowledge would sit beside Guru and ask their questions. That is the very essence of our Upanishad. Maximum seekers, maximum seeking is our motto. The Upanishad conversations bring in a remembrance of our glorious traditions and keeps alive the spirit of seeking. We are sharing our social media links and request all to visit our page, get to know about continuous work we have been doing. And if you like what you see, don't forget to press the like button, share, and subscribe. Today's topic is analyzing the present. And without further ado, let us commence the Upanishad. I request the audience to disable the video and mute the audio right away so that we can listen to this Upanishad without interruptions. Do post your questions in the chat box on Zoom or YouTube, and Guruji will address as many as time permits. Before handing over to our host, Sri Thomas Easley, I request Guruji to say a few words.
यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः यः एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न सा भूयोऽभिजायते एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं यः अनुवर्तीययतीहया अघायुरिन्द्रियारामो मोघं पार्थ स जीवति.
Dhanyavad Guruji. I shall now hand over the session to Sri Thomas Easley.
Hello, greetings. Are we there?
Namaste. Yes, namaste, Thomas ji. Namaste.
Namaste, namaste. A pleasure. So, from my side, I'd like to begin with part of what we discussed yesterday, but also I'm looking at this as we could call it a bigger picture, but basically my thinking is that the first question I would ask is, where does life take place? Because what we're looking for in our communication with each other is what is most common between all of us that connects all of us together so that we have a greater equanimity in our society. So from my studies, my point of view, life only takes place in the present. We can't actually live anywhere other than where we are right now. And we are all in the same moment in life, wherever we are on this planet at this moment, we are all in the same moment. So there is not something in my observation that connects us together more than the present moment. And if life takes place in the present, then we can begin to surmise that if we are not more awake in the moment, then the life we're living is not the full life we can live. And it's certainly not the life we could share together. Because, well, if we're going to share, if we're going to become, in a sense, one people, we are one race, but we're many people in one race. And being many people, we tend to see or focus more on our differences than our similarities. And if life takes place in the present and what we have that is most similar about us is being in the present, then it would seem to me that if we're going to have any possibility as a species of becoming more peaceful, or more, I would call it not so much that, but more productive, because one of the things that seems really apparent to me is that human potential is far from realized on the level it could be. I mean, we have, as a creation, we have the potential of becoming enlightened. And that has many interpretations depending on where you are in the world. But for me, enlightenment is simply being here as much as we can, be self-aware in this moment as much as possible, moment to moment. Because generally what's happening to us is that we are viewing reality, looking at the reality around us through a constant stream of images and chatter going back and forth in our mind between the past and the future. Because while I'm speaking now, for example, if I say water, the mind will automatically start to think of something in our experience that is related to water, so that there's an association that allows me to understand what someone else is saying. So we're constantly associating from moment to moment. And that association brings with it images and talk in the mind, which distracts our attention from being self-aware in the moment. So even though we are physically here, our state of awareness is not accompanying our presence here. So our body is very much here like a tree or anything else, but we are not self-aware of it. So what we want, as much as we can be, is not to just be functional. We need to be also aware of our states. So the body is a little like, in this regard, is a little like a car. And the higher states, or the state of being that we are in while we are in our body, is a little like the driver. So we tend to attach identity to the car, that is, to our physical person in some way, what we think, what we feel. And those attachments bring with them again imagery in our mind, which distracts us from being aware of ourselves here in the present we're in. So the goal then of enlightenment would be to just really quite simply be here in whatever space and time we're in, moment to moment, regardless of what the functions are doing, how many other things are happening around us and to us with relation to our body. So it seems easy, really. It's like putting out our arm. We can put your arm out, but the longer you hold it out, the heavier it gets. So I can say, and Guruji can say, well, hey, just be here. We can say that. It's easy to say it, but it's really actually difficult to keep our attention focused on being here, because it's constantly being pulled back and forth between the past and the future. So we have to keep coming back, like we were talking earlier. I mean, awakening is really starting over again and again and again, moment to moment. You can't store awakening in some memory somewhere, because awakening or enlightenment is a state beyond the human function. So it's not really human in a sense. And that initially seems very foreign to our logical mind. But at the same time, when you're in a higher state, it feels like the most natural thing for a human to do. So it has inborn contradictions, which often confuse people. But it's not confusing when you're there. So the thing to do is just keep trying to come back wherever we are, whatever we're doing at any given moment, whatever we believe. There is no place else for us to live. But right now, the present is the only place we can live, and it's the only place we can become enlightened. So if we want to wake up, in a sense, we have to be more alive. Because when our attention is focused on something other than the present, or too much of it, then to that extent, we are actually not self-aware. And what we want is to be self-aware while we're doing whatever we're doing. Because there's no subtraction here, it's all addition. So we have our daily life, we have our work, we have our friends, our families. We have to get up in the morning and we have to go about our day. And it's a varied day for everyone. Not everybody can sit and meditate 24 hours a day. We have jobs, we have lives, we have kids, we have friends, we have things we need to do. So how do we take awakening with us? We can't Like I used to tell people, if you go to a teacher and you study and you can't walk away with what you've learned, what have you gained? Because we're going to die, and when we die, we're going to die, us, just me. I mean, I die when I die. I mean, nobody's going to die for me. So nobody likewise is going to wake up for me. I have to wake up for myself. If I can manage to become more awake, then maybe I can pass on some of what I've learned to other people, and that will help them. And maybe if enough of us do that long enough, I mean, a population of awakened people, I try and imagine how different the world would be. Like, for example, part of my thinking too is that we are the biped species as we know ourselves to be is what, 2 million years plus, something like that. Not really very long. And at the same time, we are, in terms of modern man, maybe 7,000 years. And then if you look at that and then go, okay, well, how much conscious access do we have to the human brain? And for most of us, that's going to be around 4 or 5, maybe tops, maybe 7% of the brain. Now, the brain is functioning fully, but conscious access to it for us is limited. So with a limited conscious access to our brain, actual modern brain function being maybe 5,000 to 7,000 years, and biped existence being maybe 2 million, on the scale of species of the size of the human race, I think the human race is not even born yet. I think we're in the womb, because to my observations, if we project forward, let's say 1,000 or 2,000 years, what is the human race actually going to define itself as? Is it going to define itself as human still? We don't know. Because if we look at ourselves, we've already stepped off the earth to the moon. So that was our first extraterrestrial step. But I think the human race is extraterrestrial. It is not a terrestrial species. It's an extraterrestrial species at its beginning stages, in its womb, as it were. Because we are quite young and we're trying to answer questions like enlightenment. We're trying to find out where we came from and where we go with these great limitations, because we're very young. We're really, really young. This is like asking, I think in a way, this would be like asking a 2-year-old, how do you drive a tractor? I mean, maybe some 2-year-olds could drive a tractor, I don't know. But mostly we are just at the beginning of human consciousness, not just our own individually, but I think for the species as well. I think we're just at the starting point. And the kind of conversation we're having now, these exchanges, this way of thinking about expanding the mind and trying to reach each other through the value of something like awakening, which is a shared value whether we know it or not, because everybody that's alive is alive in this present moment. That's the only place. And so we have that as a shared ingredient in our psyche as individuals and a collective species. It's just that we're not aware of it. We're so involved in the things that we're attached to. We're just not aware of this, but it is here. We're doing it all the time. So my view, my work, as we had talked also yesterday, whether I'm writing or painting or composing a piece of music or whatever it is, the principal function of the work I do is an invitation to the present in some way, because if we can't invite each other to wake up, then there's really no other invitation of greater value for us. And we can do that, all of us, anytime. I mean, I have, because awakening is not, because we can't program it. You can't, like, in ride a bike, I can program myself to ride a bike. But you can't program yourself to wake up, because there's no attachment. So how can you program it? You can't attach a program to non-attachment. It doesn't work. So we have to just find ways to remind ourselves to realize that we're not as awake as we can be. Every moment there could be more. We could be more awake every moment. And so we just need to think in terms of addition. How do we add? How do we add? And the realization that we're not adding is a big part of that. And so for my part, for me, I have little things that I set up. Like I try and visualize systems, laws, and processes at work in every moment. So if I'm looking like the flower behind you, that flower came from somewhere. It's going somewhere. So I can't actually see where it's come from and where it's going, but I can sense in a way that it has a past and a future, as everything in this room and your room does. And so just becoming aware that they have a past and a future, even though I'm not aware of exactly what those things are, alerts me to the fact that I need to be more self-aware because I'm missing. I mean, we don't know what we're missing when we're not awake. We really don't know. I mean, I find it curious because the sharpness of the present is so much different than the dullness of looking through our associative memories and imagination toward the future into the present. When we look through that veil, everything around us is a little bit dull. And as soon as we actually are here, everything becomes sharp and clear. I mean, there's not a question, there is an answer, but it is not an answer you can actually ask because it's being present. So you can't really say anything. You just are here or you're not. And being here it seems initially like insignificant. Like what's the difference between this moment now, right now, and me being self-aware in it, and then this moment, and then this moment, and so on. It's a little difficult to see the improvement moment to moment sometimes. But after some time, that accumulation begins to grow. And the difference between being self-aware in the moment and not being self-aware is like the difference between being asleep at night in our bed and waking up in the morning. Initially, it doesn't seem that different. It doesn't. You think, well, yeah, just be awake. Yeah, be here now, be here now. Everybody says be here now. But it's not words, it's being here. It's not the words to be here, it's actual being here. And that changes and it grows in us.
Right. Okay. So, first of all, I am very happy that a great artist of words and colors with such a deep experience behind is with us in this Upanishad. And the way he expressed himself, that clearly shows how art is so close to spirituality. Without being inspired, none becomes artist. There are two things here, that when we analyze present, then we have to see how to look at present. So from his all conversation, so far I take one sentence he spoken that is very, very profound, different state. Enlightenment doesn't happen. Perhaps it is not human, something like that. He said. And that is very correct. That is what spirituality is all about. If we know this limitation, yet it is in this body that we have to experience it. It doesn't happen in this, but we have to experience that only in this. And within the duration when we are in body, whatever we are calling life, soul, any word we give, life, simple word is there. That so long as life in this body is functioning, we have to realize that. So coming to why this, are we all not living in present? Why we are always feeling, most of us, that we are not in present? So what defines present? So we have these two things we can see, that present means so many dimensions. It is not one dimension. For the help of certain examples, we can understand this. Like if we are in a vehicle and vehicle moves from one place to another, from A to B. On a very material level, we can say that vehicle is not present at point A. So absence, no presence, very material level. Now jump onto the another level of consciousness. Then we say this particle is vibrating here. So it is not leaving place in that way, but it is still leaving. So little subtler. That is also movement. That means at one point of time it is present, at another point of time it is not present, but the movement is fast enough. Then take it to the another level. Now you come to the electrons that we have discovered. Scientists have discovered that it can be present two places at the same time. Another level of presence, little more subtler. Then comes observer theory, that even observer can change the reality. So that means a little more deeper it has gone into the present. But it has not reached to the presence. Because presence by definition has to be eternal, changeless. Then only it is presence. But human life or any life, it shows movement. Everywhere movement is happening. So this has been observed by very many people across the humanity, and those people, yes, that stage of consciousness can be attained. It is possible where you become eternal and you can observe what is happening outside you, how the movement is happening. Here we give that a word which is called Brahma. Whatever is moving at that subtlest level, it is called Brahma. But what is not moving at all, eternal presence, we call this Akshar. That means it cannot be expensed with. So throughout all the things which we are doing, what we are doing, as you well said, we are refining things and handing it over to the coming generation or to the anybody available for further enhancement. So that continuation stays and people, this becomes amenable to the people. Because material things we can transfer, like property we can transfer, biologically ourselves we can transfer. Art, you are an artist, writer, whatever you are writing, creating an art, it can, generation and generations can enjoy that pieces there. But what about the thing which comes from a real person and stays with another real person, and there is no way to transfer it materially, only by worthiness. That we become that much subtler to receive it, then only we can receive it. Because eternity, which has no movement, Akshara, which is always, all the time, everywhere. But we are not seeing that. Means we are not becoming one with that. So we are not finding ourselves in the present. So we are not seeing the presence. And we are not driven by that. That eternal presence, when we are driven by that alone, which is always staying there, whether this body passes away, change to another, or we are within this, whatever happens, that is non-change, always there. Now, if we do not, while we are a body, a living person, we will not be trusting. We will start believing. And that is where the we trust telling us that red color or white color. Then you say, I believe. Since you are saying I believe, building will be there. But instead, I say you just walk and see whether it is, then you will be trusting. Then you will become much more confident. So, how to journey? Because if we go this way, that whatever is available through material knowledge, what is our brain, don't overlook that. Like now, you and I are talking. You are sitting miles away in New York. I am here in India and Bangalore. This technology is making it happen. Can we deny this progress of the science? No. We can take advantage of this and further enhance our journey to reaching towards that eternal presence. And unfortunately, what is happening these days in the present, we come with the visible present, which we are talking. Once you read 2 books of science, you start denying the spirituality. In our view, it is other way around. More scientific your attitude becomes, more are the chances of your becoming spiritual. Because you become, earlier if you were only seeking spirituality, you are a seeker. But you will see technology, everything, nothing can fool you. Nobody can say something which you cannot deny materially. So by testing everything, when you find no, these means whatever technology has developed, it is to enhance spiritual personality. And as you well said, it is not happening in this body. Then from that, it entails that can we be in such a situation where despite our being in body, we go out of body. Spiritual traditions or Indic traditions, they vouch for it.
We seem to have paused on your side.
Yes,
Okay.
there seems to be a network issue.
But I was able to follow most. There were a few spots that were interrupted, but I can
Yeah.
comment on what I was able to hear. Science, yeah. Science and technology. These are budding institutions. Working.
Yeah, so science.
Yes, please. Here. Yeah, we were interrupted. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear.
So that's where our role comes. Whatever profession we have come through that, when we become finer and finer, honestly, then it will definitely lead us towards spirituality. Yes. And when we say it, our reality out in the open, then more people are attracted towards the reality. That it is real, it is not something out of reality, it is more real. Like that from your own example, that until 2 years before you were not talking about it openly. Look, now when you say such thing, that over this long period, now when you are ripe in wisdom, you are finding this, no, I should make this communication. And you find ready heart to receive it. Somehow it gets conveyed. And that is how this oneness is more refined, we become more this peace, oneness, all virtues. We will discover automatically, we will land there. Only place we have to do some work is our own heart, that we become open and we begin to share the real perception, whatever is real for us. And that leads us towards that movement, which we are talking about. That layers and layers of present, but reaching to a place from where you find your presence everywhere. Then only we can say we can analyze present from that stage. But language has its own boundaries as well. Like there is a limitation of spoken word, something we can convey. It reminds me of one of your piece of art that Sandhya has shown me. There you have thrown some color on the screen and it resulted into 2 or 3 women going for fetching water or something towards the river. So from one angle, if you see, it is just a patch of color, vivid colors. Another angles, they are perfectly women. Another angle, there are certain shrubs and other things in the water. You can see them as water worlds as well. You can see them as plants. There is another picture into that where you can see it, a Shivlinga beneath the water and half up water, and you can see it a roving man with a boat. So where is the reality into that? So what you can convey through words, you can convey much more through subtler art. But there are other languages which we call Madhyama, Pashyanti and Para. And the language which conveys through words, it is called Vaikhari. So it has limited. More subtler than this is Madhyama, subtler than this is Pashyanti, subtler than this Para. But come back to that picture. Suppose you as an artist created that picture with so many ideas, so many things. God only knows what you were trying to express. But there comes a child and innocently he looks at the picture and reveals to you what you never meant. That I see this in this picture. So what is the real picture? Does his vision becomes unreal because you created it? Find your art. No, my art should be seen only with this angle. Or has become a reason for others to enhance their perception. And that is how the transaction happens. So when in the form of arts, which are still in material level, this much can be conveyed, this much openness can be created, how much more it is possible in the spiritual path. So this is how we travel from present to presence. And that is how I will say about it.
This is really fun, by the way. Just having a conversation like this with these thousands of miles between us. Just think about, like you mentioned, just think about how exciting that is in the human history to have two people speaking with however other people we're sharing with here over such distances where ideas can be exchanged this way. It's just really fun. It's really fun. But if I could, part of two things that came to mind. The first one, what you're saying about science, the basis of science is analyzation and verification, as you were speaking, exactly. And for that, in terms of spirituality, we want the same thing. If somebody says to me, listen, Thomas, you can wake up. Okay, well, I need to analyze that and see what that means, and then see what applications need to take place for me to verify whether that's true. So science and spirituality, to my mind, are very much one and the same, because if we are not asking questions and analyzing what people tell us in a spiritual sense, then what are we going to gain from what they're saying? Because if we just listen and do something, like I say, jump, and you jump, well, where's the benefit for you? Because there wasn't any decision on your part, really. You just responded. There was no decision, just a response. I say jump, you jump, and so there's a response, but there's no processing of me saying something, you know, there needs to be a process there where when someone says something to us, as we would in science, if someone gives us a theory, like what I said earlier about the species being in the womb, I mean, that's a theory. We don't know. I mean, is it? Are we? We don't really know. So I'm saying, well, I think that the human race is extraterrestrial. Well, is that just words? Does it mean anything at all? How are we going to know if we don't analyze it? So how do we analyze it? We have to look at what we know is there, what we can verify, and see if it lines up. If it doesn't, then you have to do more investigation. Maybe it's a good idea. Like string theory in science is a beautiful theory. It's so far impossible to verify, but it deals with multidimensionality, which we can verify because we can look in a mirror and we see automatically a two-dimensional image of ourselves. At the same time, there is a three-dimensional image of us, or a three-dimensional person. So we can be aware of the two-dimensional image of ourselves in the mirror and the three-dimensional person that we are at the same time. So we know multi-dimensions exist because we can just look in the mirror and see two right away. And so string theory is very good at introducing the concept of multidimensionality, but they can't verify it. I mean, not enough to say, yeah, this is a proven theory, but it's a beautiful theory. We can say that awakening, enlightenment is great. It's just be here every moment, and your life will become enhanced by degrees you have no idea. We can say that, but how do we verify it? Are we changing something here? Or? I'm sorry. Yeah. You just disappeared, so I wasn't sure if we were still.
Now. Yeah. For 2 minutes, I was not able to hear you.
Oh.
Past 2 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I know this is. It is technology. We're still working on it. maybe technology is still in the womb also.
Yes.
I mean, probably. Yeah.
Yes.
No, so let me see if I can recap just a little, if I can. I'll try. Although I forget a lot. I remember a lot and forget a lot. Kind of sometimes, but anyway. Yeah. Verification.
Okay, we are in the present. We can move.
Okay, yeah, we can move. Oh yes, what I was thinking also in terms of verification, one of the things that's one of the things that's very clear to me now, also after these many years, is that
I heard. Yes.
Yeah, ego is in the way. The main attachment we have, like when we speak of the concept of attachment, at least as I have processed this over the years, is that we take identity out of functions, because there is a difference between states and functions. Me being self-aware is a state. What I'm aware of are functions. So we have a difference between the observer and the subject of observation. So are we still there? I'm not sure. I don't see you. I'll pause until we're back, that I can be sure. I know I'm not sure why this is breaking up, but yeah. Robin, can you?
Okay. Now you continue. It's okay. I'll get. I'm getting the sense. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. We're doing it in fragments.
Yes. You will verify whether without listening to you, I could listen to you.
Okay. Good. No. So what I'm thinking now is that if we're looking at the value in science to spirituality, one of the first things we can see is that when anyone tries to be more self-aware in any given moment, and what gets in the way is or dulls the view, pulls the curtain across, is the constant flow of imagery and words going back and forth in our mind. So what supports those words and that imagery is ego. Ego, we need our ego to guide ourselves through life. I mean, we need to have a personality. We need to have something that we can use to relate to other people with, and people can relate to us. So ego is very, very handy for that. But ego is possessive, and it's attached to everything that we think and feel that is important to us. At the same time, because ego is past tense, it is not awake or alive in the present. So we need, in a sense, we need to consume our ego to wake up, but we also need it to stay there to guide us daily.
Yes.
So when you were speaking about the division of the proton between different states, like two states at one time,
yes, yes,
observation of ourselves is also in a sense like that, because we can be functioning and observe ourselves at the same time. Like memory is a function, ego is a function. It is not a state. The awareness of ego is the state. And we want to be in the awareness of, not the attachment to. So ego will consistently try and attach to with every moment that we are awake in. Because as soon as we gain a value through awakening, an ego wants to attach to it to give itself value. And when it does that, we lose the present in it, but we think because we're gaining value from our point of view, that it's okay. We don't notice we're not actually in the present anymore. We're in our ego. So this is when the verification is really handy from science, because we can actually see that happen. Because we can sit here and try and be more aware and watch what prevents us from being in the moment. What usually prevents us from being in the moment or takes us out of it is some version of ego attachment. Something that's happened before that we identify with, that means something to us, and then our attention goes to that and it goes away from the present. We're no longer self-aware. But we can do both.
Yes, so this is where the spirituality helps at some process. As you said, if I say jump, you jump. There is no process. I just heard you. So in spiritual traditions, there is a process that this is the way where we are ourselves become capable of making that decision that I am, though somebody else has told us, but am I going? But it is me who has taken a decision with full awareness. That is the difference. Now here some role of language is also there. And that is where we find this Indic spirituality a little different. Because this language here for ego word is aham. But for identity, the word is atma.
Okay.
So so identity, we all have same. When we reach to the state of spiritual, which we are calling eternal presence, then you and I are not two, because there is no movement. It is impossible. Otherwise, it will be against what we are saying. It will be falsified. But that cannot be proved in the language. But this language is very conducive, because it tells what is the function of the ego. Ego here we say aham akar. That means this is how I am. Now who is this I? This I is atma, identity. Not body, not, as you said, these are function. Those are chitta's function. All ego, and that you have mind, and then you have memory, then you have intelligence. Mostly people function at the level of intellect. They don't hardly reach few to the intelligence. So all these are functions which are attaching you either to the ego, as you said, that becomes a past, and then trouble begins, because you identify yourself with your ego.
Yes.
And not with your identity.
Yes.
So you want to somehow justify that, look, this is how I'm, because everything is craving for Its existence. I am, I am, I am. That is the vibration coming from everywhere, because that
Yeah.
is your nature of your eternal presence, that you are, you are. And so when they do it in a spiritual process, they start looking at their, observing their breathing, how this is happening, sitting in cool. And then they reach to certain profound understanding about themselves. They could disassociate themselves with ego and could become the real identity. That the gap they could see, and they could figure out that how movement and eternity are same. But that is the profound most state. If we come on a little grosser level, then we say movement to movement. Otherwise, movement and eternity are the two sides of the same coin, because movement is eternally present and eternity is eternal. So how to access to that dimension? Is it possible? So as you said, are there ways? Yes. In spirituality, there are ways which we call methods. So we practice them, and when we verify, yes, my this perception has changed. It has become deeper and subtler. So when we become evidence of that, then the trust comes, not belief. Trust. These two words, they are important. So in spiritual direction, to the extent we have to work with language. This language is very close, I find, but it is definitely in every language, the word will be there. But one has to be the knower of all language of the world in that sense. And that is, I think, almost impossible for a human lifespan that we have today, that we will know all the languages materially. But once you cross this limitation of language and you start perceiving deeper, which we call madhyama, you become medium yourself. Then you start perceiving those higher truths, that how even if I am not alert, my own observation may change the reality, may give an impression to the reality. And I will be confused by that. Looking at on my own image, I will get confused. Later only I can confuse others. First, I will get confused. Yeah. So in spirituality, what we are doing to ourselves, we can't do anything other than that to others. If we see little different, if I start seeing you any different from me, I stop seeing. Only way is that way, where everywhere you find yourself or you say yourself. It doesn't matter, because when we have crossed this barrier, the limitation of this language, in which you means you, the Thomas, and I means I, the Nandkishore. Not like this. We have gone beyond that. Now we are having the same identity, and then we are roving. So whosoever term comes, they enhance it a little more. And since it is eternal presence, there is no gap of time. So we always feel that oneness. And that is what all spiritual masters across the geographies, across the times, those who could reach to that dimension to whatever extent, they have been conveying that this oneness is real. This is the only reality. All else is hallucination. All else is appearance. But there is a method. You cannot just simply jump. There is a way how you can transcend your body despite being it. Because you can only transcend, you cannot dismantle it. That will be violence. So they discovered fields by sitting quiet in meditation, that this is how in one field you move ahead. Another field, tools are different. There is also science, but tools have changed. So with changed and refined tools, now your consciousness level has changed, but it has become real to you. So what is lower, it has become less real. So we start calling it apparent, not real.
Okay.
So if we keep moving that way, and then we become much more rich, peaceful inside. And that gives us confidence that whatever I was looking in this world for, it is not there. it is very much within me. And if what all I have been considering so far as me is removed, where does it get removed? In our own consciousness and experience and realization. None can know it except the one who is experiencing it. That is why in a movement, if somebody is enthralled, somebody is thrilled, other person is not. He says, I am also in the same space, but I am not. Then experience. So everybody has to become the experience. And this can happen, as you say, we are part of that process. That we are trying to say some way that please, there is a way, only if you are willing to discover it. And it will lead you towards better and better, materially as well as spiritually. Because some misconceptions are there, different kinds of misconceptions people have, that if I will become spiritual, will I become a renunciate, in the sense that I will leave my family and go to some Himalayas or Aravallis or whatever mountains, Kilimanjaro, whatever, go there. It is not. Only the Sahaj Smriti Yoga, especially we are saying, only when you are a family in family, that you can progress better spiritually. Because everything is available in family, whatever is needed for our spiritual evolution. So if this kind of conversations, vibrations are maximized through people who are credible, who have been sincere, and who are known as sincere people through their work as an excellent professionals, then that the credibility of that process is stamped in the humanity's consciousness. Then the otherwise, because of this compulsive living, that there's some limit that you have to survive, that compulsive surviving, this compulsion of survival and the materially, this so many people, you can say, just to put a figure, that 99% people are ruined by this blood perception.
Yeah.
So these when educated people, those who have very thoroughly experiencing life, when they say no, even when I am a professional, ultimately it is by moving towards spirituality that I discovered real value for the values, what we call life values, universal values. And that is what is most worth transferring to the next part of the humanity, or say that to the humanity present. And that is how we move.
No, I agree. I agree. No, I mean, one of the ways that I look at this too is that we extending our life is a little difficult, but we can make it deeper. And I don't see a deeper well in the human psyche than the present. And in that, if we can just, I mean, there's more life than the life we're living. Is the thing. I mean, like you said, I mean, I see people. I go out. We all go out, and I know, because I am also bound by my body to my labor, and so I know the intent, purpose that tends to project on our psyche, and how people they just focus on that. We are not taught. I don't understand why we are not taught to wake up from the moment we're born. Opening our eyes is not awakening. That doesn't mean, that just means your body is functioning. Opening your eyes means realizing you're not awake, which sounds contradictory, but it's actually, I think, fairly accurate if you try and analyze it. So why aren't we taught this? I mean, we should be living a life more deeply than we are, but we get caught in the routines, we get caught in the necessities, like you said, and it makes it very difficult when those things are pressing down on us to actually be here in the present. But if we're not, those things lose value, and we just don't see that. we need instruction as a society to see greater value in ourselves than we do, because the value ego gives us is a low level value. We think, well, oh, I'm an artist, or I'm a politician, or I'm whatever I am, or whatever we think. Whatever our identity perception is, it's a lower value than awakening. And we are not taught this. We are not taught that the life that we have is a rare, brief event in the cosmos, in reality. We are only here for a click. And in that period of time, how deeply are we going to live? How much of a life are we going to make? I mean, I've been saying to people for years, we must admit at least the possibility that everything we believe to be true is not true. That doesn't mean that some of what we believe to be true is not true. It just means we need to be present to verify that what we believe to be true is true. Because if it was true yesterday, that's yesterday. Is it true right now? In this moment, if something is true, really true, the only place it can be verified to be true is right now.
Yes.
So if we
that
are
is
not
that is that is very, very, very correct. Very correct. This way, see, it reminds me that in India, in our families, certain families, this education is given at home.
Yes, it is.
It is given, and they tell parents, look, you are a traveler here for some time. I mean, I can be an evidence of that. That we are told at home that you are here, this is a sojourn, you are for some brief time, and you have to make best of it.
Yes.
So if that becomes part of our education, which unfortunately so far it is nowhere, I think, in the world, in no education system, they are teaching children this way. And as you said, why can't we agree? Definitely we can agree by saying simple reality that, look, howsoever great knowledgeable person you are, howsoever much space you have explored, still are you not aware that there is something unknown to you?
Every day, all the time.
This much space more you explore,
bigger, it gets bigger.
More you explore, more clear you become, more calm and composed you become to reiterate this sentence that now I know there is much more to be known. By knowing and knowing more, you discover your ignorance, not your knowledge. That how ignorant we are because there is so much to be known. So on that, we can definitely agree. And that is why where the people like you artists, those who have standing in this world community, whenever the opportunity such arises, so such thought, small thought we give there, that this is the way it should be looked at. Then maybe someday it will become part of the curriculum. And as you said, that maybe we are in the womb, what all has to come. We are really in the womb. That is how spirituality looks at it. We call it Hiranya Garbha, means you are in that Garbha, that means womb all the time. So this way, always, if this education comes, and definitely we will have much more enhanced life for the coming times, because this present can only be experienced, as you said, it named it a well, present well. Any word we can use, so the bottomless well, you can say, that we keep going, but there is a place. That is what the traditions, spiritual traditions, that is how the value of the spiritual masters is. That is how the peace, because everybody becomes evidence of that once you start on that path. So I think this is time for, I have got signal for audience questions.
Oh, sure, please.
So
yeah.
I will hand it over to Jeet. Yes, Jeet.
Okay.
Thank you, Guruji. The first question is to Guruji. When most of the emotions like anger, sadness, happiness, anxiety are based on past events or experiences that are etched in our memory or future possibilities, what are some tools and techniques that can be used to live happily in the present moment?
Yes, very relevant question.
Mm.
See, we have to learn this. When we say present moment, then we have to come to that understanding. Through our doing, we call it self-inquiry. Through self-inquiry, when we go in a satsang, when we discover by doing reasoning properly, as we do here in Sajasmriti Yoga, as you know, you exist, you may or may not exist, you don't exist, by giving simple tools. So you do an analysis. And when you come to that analysis, then you also come to know that it is the intelligence which has leading role in living life. And we should give that to intelligence because it is her role. So with that, whatever has happened in the past, you will invariably come to this conclusion that it is worth forgiving. Slowly, you will become capable of forgetting also the bitterness part of it. You may remember it as a burned down event. That's such burned down event. It has no fire effect. Means when you remember it, it will not trouble you. It will be burnt image of that event. So this can happen when you are going in a spiritual process. You can definitely become capable of analyzing that, forgetting and forgiving. These when become part. But I said bitterness part of it, because when you altogether forget something, then also has its own danger in the beginning. They say, no, if you forget history, you are bound to learn history in a different way. You are meant to repeat it. So that means you have forgotten the awareness part of it also. So some way to certain distance that is needed until you have reached to the profound state where it will not matter to you. You will become evidence of that it doesn't matter to you. So this is how, by analyzing, and then by forgiving, and then by forgetting its bitter part, that we can move ahead. Give yourself some time when any such things happen and peacefully sit and do this analysis. That will help. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Next question is to Sri Thomas Easley. Do you feel art as a profession is more suitable for spiritual progress?
No, I mean, not no, absolutely, because I think that creativity is in solving problems. When I sit down to paint or write or whatever creative endeavor I'm in, as we call it creative, there are problems to solve. I mean, how do you make a composition, and so on, and you figure those things out, and your creativity is expressed through solving those problems. If I went out here in my yard and started building a wall, a retainer wall or something, and the ground is too soft and it begins to collapse, it's a problem I have to solve. So that invites creativity. So I don't think that creativity is limited in any way to what we call artists and creative people. Creativity is in problem solving. And so I don't think of art. I mean, I am capable. It's one of the areas I'm capable of working in. So I use that to try and extend the value of art into spirituality. But we could do the same thing if I was a mason or a taxi driver, because I have a problem. I need to take a person from here to there, and I have to solve that problem. And that requires creativity on my part. So it is not bound up. Spirituality, if it's in any way tied to art, is tied to solving problems. And the problem we have with spirituality is that we're not as awake as we can be. And so I don't think anybody at any time, whatever the job they have, whatever they're doing, if they're solving a problem, they're also on the threshold of awakening.
Thank you, Thomas ji. Next question to Guruji. Relatively speaking, are artists more gifted or better equipped for spiritual growth as they are very creative?
Yes, the questioner has given the answer itself. Last word, creativity, because they are more creative. So anywhere, wherever the creativity is, that means your tools have become subtler. And spirituality is all about moving towards your subtlest existence. As I read the slok in the beginning, ye yatha mam prapadyante. The way you respond to the existence responds to you. If you are responding it at the subtlest level, it will respond to you in the subtlest level. So, yes, if you are creative, whatever your field may be, you are tend to become subtler, and that helps in moving towards your subtlest existence or identity, which we call. Yes.
Next question to Easley. Purely from a spiritual viewpoint, have you ever felt any regret that you were not born in India?
That's a very interesting question, because I first came to India in 1987, and it was very difficult to leave when I finally left. I lived in India altogether for maybe over 7 years, something like that. But the perception that I would call it Indian, for not having a better word, but the perception of the value of higher states of enlightenment, of consciousness in India has been there for thousands of years. And I remember when I first arrived in India, I didn't know what to expect, except that I knew that this society was very old and very spiritually evolved. And I felt like just walking on streets and up climbing mountains that have been in the presence of people's thinking about awakening for so long, that I would somehow just imbibe that. I would absorb it through my skin in some way. And in some way, I think that does happen, because we are a stimulus response organism. And my response to India was always uplifting. And so I don't know. I mean, I for whatever reason too, when I was a child living in the Sierras out in California, where I was born, I had visuals of my life being like a wave that went back and forth between India and the West. I never went north or south that much. I always went east from here. So I don't know that regret would be a word, but I am really very happy I made it to India.
Thank you, Thomas ji. Guruji, we generally assume various identities based on the roles we play. How to understand identity in the real sense, and how can we reach to this real identity?
Yes. So this leads us to the same question, which is today's Upanishad's topic, that how to reach to that identity, whether such an identity exists or not, which is eternal. So if we keep doing some inquiry on our own, we will come to know this, we will feel this, experience that the word meaning of existent, astitva, as we say, I said in the beginning, language also has a role. Astitva means thou exists. That is known as identity, atma. So we have to reach to that identity. And these are the roles which others, we are like, we are parents, or we are children, or we are somebody in the office. We are national of a country, we are world citizen, we may be part of some congregation playing another role, we may be on the stage playing a role within role, so many things, but those are not our identities. So like in a stage, if we are made king, we are supposed to play the role of king, and when we come out of stage and we still say I am the king, then people will declare us fool. But on the stage, if we say this, they say he is doing his role correctly. So how this to reach to that real identity, and that is through a spiritual process. When you go through a path and you keep becoming evidence of your journey, that what is being spoken unto you, that is becoming your own knowledge also. It is not that by believing you are taking this. When we are told that you are something more than what you appear to be, and when we experience that through a spiritual path, that these are my layers and layers, but this is not real me. Real me is all pervasive, all the time, eternal. So, but that experience can be held in this human frame alone. That is the beauty of the human frame. And that is where the spiritual process or Indic spirituality comes to fore. That it says with firmness that yes, this is possible in this life itself, that you can experience your immortality while you are in this mortal coil. So when this process become engaged with, then automatically with the help of a guru, satsang, and our own effort, we keep moving from ego to the towards the real identity. And there are about roughly 16 stages, we can say, where we in Sahaj Smriti Yoga have brought down to 5 because people do not have time. So many we have clubbed in one, so that you can get the feel of that and can move. So that is how that is possible. That we begin our journey towards reality by doing some self-inquiry. Otherwise, as I said in the slok, that if you do not understand, sarvatha vartmano api na sabhuyo vijayate, if you reach to that eternity by knowing Purusham and Prakriti as it is, that means Prakriti means appearance, Purusham means the reality. As it is, if you come to know, then na bhuyo bhijayate means you will not be born again. Will not be born again means what? You will stay in your eternal identity. You will keep knowing, now I have changed this body, like you change cloth. So it is not in this verbal sense that you will not be born, but in sense of the consciousness, you will not be born. So if in this body you can have that experience, then you become supreme confident. And then you become a contributor to the world. Until then, you are running just for your survival. So we somehow, as Thomas also inferred, that until we realize this time and again, that there is yet to be there something to be realized. Unknown is higher than whatever known is before me. Then only we can reach to that real identity. Yes, this is possible to attain to that identity within one life, not even in one life, within few months if we are ready. And we become evidence of that.
Thank you, Guruji. Next question. Thomas G. We have a next question from Abhishek. Rather than considering present as a well, don't you think present is akin to space, which is more open, boundless, and up for discovery?
Yeah, I like that. I think that, I mean, we could use that certainly. I mean, something interesting is time and space. If we took time to be represented as a 360 point of view from every particle that is on the atomic level, then there is no room for space, only time, or there is no room for time, only space, which makes them actually the same thing, which I agree would be much deeper than my well idea. So yeah, I would space, yeah, time and space, these are much larger. The thing about the present that I have observed over the years that I've been practicing this is that it is, as Guruji said, it just keeps being bigger. I mean, there's no concept that we can experience and verify that's, in my mind, greater than present self-awareness, because it just is massive. And everything in the present is active, it's alive. There's no empty life, in a sense, in the present, and it's just huge, huge, huge. And we, again, as we had said earlier, we miss so much of this by these attachments that we have, these constant needs to identify and give ourselves value in a world that requires that we do so. Again, conversations like this are so helpful because we share our understanding of what we don't understand, which enhances our ability to press forward as a species. If more people would talk like this, it'd be so good.
Thank you. Next question to Guruji. Guruji, you often say eternity and moment are two sides of the same coin. Could you please elaborate how to understand this?
Yes. See, that is how we see the continuity. What the Thomas was saying, that at a point, it becomes indifferentiable. What is space and what is time? Because you move to that state of unity where two becomes difficult. It is not possible. But that one which we call Advaita includes all. It is not one, it is oneness, in which all that is there finds its existence as that one. So when this movement of consciousness, call it well or call it sky, doesn't change anything. The idea is the way we have been reached to that realization where that we as that begin to see this. Now this is the limit of the language. If we have to make a conversation or a communication, some movement is necessary. Without movement, there is no communication. And that is where we say in spirituality, after some point of time, this language is needed minimal just to verify that what experience we have undergone, that is not an hallucination. So it is in a regressive sense that we use the language, Vaikhari, not in a positive sense there. But at this level, yes, when we say non-dual, means that oneness. So we reach to that stage where we do not find difference in our identity, whether I should call myself this or that. You cannot differentiate yourself from anything. You do not find your identity different from anything. You have reached to that realization. So there it is movement or eternity, whatever you are calling. I think when you are saying eternity, you are saying that it has, over the period of time, it has gone beyond. Now it has become infinite, and then infinite also has ended. It has become, because infinite also has a sense of movement, that something is expanding. But eternity does not have that. It is static, beginningless, endless. It is what it is. Same way the movement. So these are the two names we have given. Sanatana and Chana. As we say, because my thinking happens in language only, in Hindi or Sanskrit, mostly in Hindi. So I have to find right word in English for that. So this is how, when you move towards dense and that experience, then you find oneness more condensed and dense, where there is no movement, so you no movement. So you call it eternity or movement. It is a mere language issue. It is not issue with your experience. That is how you can see it.
Thank you, Guruji. We will take a last two more questions because we are almost on the end of this session. So next question to Thomas G. We all see the world, but what do you feel is there in you which pushes, inspires you to put in on the canvas?
Okay. If I could, though, first I just wanted to say the difference between one and oneness, as Guruji said, is so beautifully put. It was really that is so correct, because if we strive for the singular and not the inclusive singular, it isolates us. It's the wrong direction. I mean, oneness is what we want. And in response to the question, I'm sorry, can you repeat it, please?
Sure.
It's an age thing.
No worries. So we all see the world, but what do you feel is there in you which inspires you to put it in the canvas? Yeah.
I think that one of the greatest attributes of the human psyche or being state is curiosity. That is without curiosity and questioning. I mean, the problem with answers is that they're past tense, and curiosity is a present tense interest. And so I'm constantly trying to experience more life in the life I'm living. And so that creates great diversity in my interests. And so, have I answered that? I'm sorry. It was an interesting question to put so many thoughts in my mind. I couldn't decide which one.
It's true.
Thank you, Thomas G.
Sure.
So with that, we have the last question, and that's to Guruji. Art, especially painting, captures the image of an appearance. I repeat, art, especially painting, captures the image of an appearance. Where does Guruji see the presence of the eternal in this image of image?
First of all, let me commend Thomas G. The way he answered, especially the last part of the sentence. There are so many thoughts, which one to put. Now, this is the perfect answer for that kind of a question. That is what an artist is, that he has so many questions and so many ideas that how to put them on canvas. And in that creative struggle, or creative conversation with oneself, or with whatever one is considering oneself, that is how somehow something comes on the canvas. But reality is still left there, and that is what we call here athato brahma jigyasa. That means that the first sutra of becoming a seeker, that you are really a seeker, you are open to the unknown, that somehow some more becomes known to you. So that is how the art is. Now, how do I see in that? See, everywhere, it is not in one place. When you say seeing, then it is a very wide word. In every stage, it changes. And when you see from the eternity, then there is nothing that is existing. All are just playing. Things, appearances are playing, different bhavas are playing. There is a play, constantly play going on. So where is it is continuous painting. So as a child of eternity, we see this whole creation as a painting. And out of that, some individual creates an image. So it is image of an image of an image. But what is beneath that? That is driving all. without getting driven. It is making everything move without moving at all.
Mm.
This is what the ultimate potential is. From where you start seeing, then everything appears to you as an art, as a play going on.
Mm.
And that is how you can see everywhere art. But if somebody has that capacity, that aptitude, that somebody can mirror it
Mm.
on a certain way, then that is also art, because it is a replica of that. Like we are seeing ourselves on the screen. We know we are not that, but still we would like to do some paint here and there. Oh, it would have been rather better if I was looking like that. So it is continuous life which is behind. And that way we just keep enjoying. So that is how the life itself should be seen as an art. And then you become very open and you start looking at yourself in much deeper way. And that is what we are wanting, that until that profoundness happens within you, you can't be peaceful in the real sense. And once that happens, nothing can trouble you. That is the level of the peace, because you know you are eternal. Everything else is changing. Like in art, today you do strokes this way, tomorrow something else comes. That is how life after life we keep going. That is how I see value in every piece of art. Reflection of the same eternity.
Mm.
Yes.
Thank you, Guruji. With that last question, we have come to the end of this online Upanishad. We do want to acknowledge a bit of technical glitch we faced in today's session. So apologies to all the audience and the host. We do want to thank Guruji and Thomas Ji for giving us yet another opportunity to explore ourselves. While we also thank the audience for participating wholeheartedly, I would take an opportunity to share our social media coordinates once more. Please do make a note of it if in case you would like to reach us. Finally, just like today, we do have 2 more online Upanishads lined up in the month of August and September. On 75th Independence Day of India, 15th August, we have Dr. Raj Vedam, founder IHAR, with us. And later, on first Saturday of September, we have renowned author and political analyst, Shri Shantanu Gupta. Thanks again, wherever you are, whatever you do, please do follow the COVID norms and stay safe. Dhanyavad.
Hari Om. Namaste. Hari.